across the south of England, think about best practice, and just try and think about how it meets the statutory guidance and the Gatsby benchmarks. So we'll probably be finished by about 4:10, 4:15, all being well. So just a reminder, Careerpilot's a free website aimed at 13 to 19-year-olds, and the feedback that we get is really positive, and we do regular surveys with students, parents and staff. And the reason it's free is because it's funded by 20 universities across the south of England. And Michelle, I know you're heavily involved with the WIN. So there are other NCOP projects across the south of England, and their funding has allowed us to develop the website, cover a wider area, and make changes to the website, such as a reporting zone, that allow better functionality for staff within schools. So since 2013, the website has been around, but it's really only since the last sort of year that we've really had the money to make big changes on the site. So it's impartial. So again, because we're free, we haven't got any advertising on there. We haven't got vacancies on there where big businesses can show what they've got. We're really impartial, and at least twice a year we'll go in there and do a big review to make sure the websites are up to date that we link to. So as I said, we did start with the student zone, and then from that we've created the advisor area, the parent area, and more recently the reporting zone, which staff can look at student data. So any year from year 7 to year 13 can use the site, and with the younger ones it's mainly about looking at what their options might be in the future, what jobs they might be interested in doing in the future, and start to think about some of their skills that they might need to develop. And then obviously as you go up into Key Stage 4, it's about thinking about the post-16 options that are available to the young people, and really starting to focus on the kind of skills that need to be included on CVs and applications for college or apprenticeships. And then in the sixth form, we're really focusing in on whether students are going to go on to university or whether they're going to take advantage of the apprenticeship route, whatever it might be. Again, trying to be as impartial as possible, but making sure that students know all the options that are available to them. With the HE skills map, a nice sort of starting point for students to start thinking about the skills that they can include on their UCAS personal statement, etc. So those are the main parts of the site. In particular, the student area has two different parts. So it's a career tool, so you can see on the right, that feeds into the reporting zone. So if students save what they've done within the career tools, that will feed into the reporting zone, and then the person who has access within the school can see the student data. And so schools and colleges simply need to fill out their data sharing agreement, which you have done, Michelle, and then just have somebody in school who's responsible for keeping that data safe. So only setting up staff members who are appropriate to see student data. Students do need to register for that. So any student can use the site, but if they want to save their data and for it to feed into the reporting zone, they do need to register, and they need to make sure they put themselves into the correct school and the correct year group. So this is what the job sectors bit would look like. So if a student's completed the job sectors part of the career tools, so this person has chosen 4 different job sectors that they're interested in, and they can even colour code it and select whether they're really interested in a particular job sector or whether they're just exploring it. And that also records any National Career Service job profiles that they've looked at too. So if there's a one-to-one careers advisor or a tutor of a particular tutor group that's having one-to-one sessions with the student, then they can see this information if they have access to the reporting zone. So you can start to build up a sort of an idea as to what this student's particularly interested in, and then try and advise them appropriately. So the qualifications planner part of the career tools is where students can map out their route. And this is really interesting because quite often students don't know what the level qualifications are, and sometimes not even the staff working with them. So it's really interesting that students can see the fact that if they're currently doing their GCSEs, they're at level 2, and then they can look to see what pathway they're going to take and the appropriate equivalent qualifications. So a first year of an honours degree is equivalent to a higher apprenticeship, that kind of thing, just to show that it's not just one route that they need to take. And this section is now where the students can start to put down what they're currently doing, and they can record the grades that they might be hoping for by simply adding on the subject detail and typing in their predicted grades. So again, just a record of what they're hoping to achieve and perhaps what they have achieved if they're in the sixth form. So the Find a Provider area, if they go in the list view rather than the map view, is where the students can select FE colleges or training providers or universities that they are interested in attending. This is really only the south of England, although there is a link to UCAS, and therefore they can see other universities further away. But now students can select places that they might be interested in attending. And again, if you've got a careers advisor in school or somebody who's in charge of careers, they can look at that information and see, oh, well, is it reasonable to try and ask Exeter University, for instance, to come in and do a talk because we've got 25 students who are interested in going to Exeter, or whatever it might be. But just a little bit of information gathering from that particular set of students. So the HE skills map, again, for sixth form students, is where they will select a number of things that they have achieved. And once they've put in all their achievements and skills, the skills map will generate a series of skills that they have achieved or are useful. And they can see that then that when they're applying to university or applying for an apprenticeship or a work experience, whatever it might be, they can see the skills that they've already achieved or whether there are skills there that they need to work on. They can add their own examples. So if, for instance, they have completed a work experience activity, they can record that here. And this is also the place where they might start to record any other careers related encounter. So the statutory guidance now actually recommends or tries to think about schools allowing students at least one careers encounter per year from 7 to 13. So 7 encounters, whatever that might be, work experience or a campus visit. And so this is a part of the website where you could try and get the students to record those, so they don't just go on a campus visit to the University of Bath or wherever it might be and then forget all about it. It could actually be a follow-up activity where they come back and they type up what they did there, and they can select the skills that they think they may have gained from that particular encounter. So that fits in nicely with the statutory guidance. Another thing that's useful is once the student has completed all of those different career tool sections, they then have a report that can be updated as they move through the school. And a new feature is that now teachers or staff can put in a comment. So again, if a student's had a one-to-one conversation with somebody in school, that can now be added within their report. So the reporting zone is where you would find information either by group or by an individual if a school has access to the reporting zone. Do you know who our password for the So this is a school, and we've just blanked out the school name just so for anonymity. So this individual school has signed up all of their Year 11. They've had a session with Year 11s where they've all registered. So we can see that now in the reporting zone. A few of the other year groups have been involved. Because it's a WIN school, we've got WIN groups having been set up because they're having more attention, they're seeing more people. And there's a few Year 13s in there as well. So a school can set up their own groups quite easily, and then whoever's interested in that particular group can have a look at the students, whatever they've chosen, their choices. So for instance, you can run reports off. So again, this is from an actual school, but we've just blanked out the names of the students. You can run a report off for any particular group that's there. And this one's the job sector choices. So finding out what job sector a particular year group is interested in, or a tutor group or a pupil premium group, whatever it might be. And similarly, you can do that for the providers, and you can do that for the qualification choices. So whichever part of career tools you're interested in, you can run off a report for that particular group. You can also download that into Excel and save it as an Excel spreadsheet rather than just seeing it on the Careerpilot website. Similarly, again, this report's been run off. If, for instance, you've asked the whole of the Year 11 tutors to do this, you can have a look to see which particular tutor groups have completed which particular tasks. So this is the tasks completed by students report, and again, you can download this and have it as evidence to say, well, all of Year 11 have completed these particular career tools. There's also something on there called the My Next Steps quiz, which any student can access. And it's aimed really at the older students because it's there to ask them what their intentions are. So there are questions like, how likely is it that you're going to go on to higher education? What are the barriers that are preventing you from going on to higher education? What else do you need to know about higher education? Just to try and fit in with the NCOP requirement that all students, at least 20%, are getting to higher education. But it's really important at school level because it will indicate any particular barriers that might need to be worked on. For instance, if a student highlights student finance, like the finance as an issue, then you could maybe do a session on student finance or anything that they're worried about. So again, just to remind you, this is what you would see at the back end once all the students have completed that, and in particular the teacher comments section. So this is a teacher comments section. So every time we see a student on a one-to-one basis, we will type up the discussion that we've had with the student. If then a teacher at the school has had a one-to-one session with that same student, they simply add a new comment and the hours are archived. So you can just keep adding to that and you'll build up a picture of all these one-to-one sessions that may have taken place with the student. So that's my bit done. I'm just going to pause now and I'll go and find out the keeper details for you, Michelle. So whilst I do that, Catherine's just going to talk about a little bit about what they do in particular at John Bentley School. So I'll sign off for now. Over to you, Kath.
Michelle. So I'm the WIN Higher Education Advisor at the John Bentley School in Calne, and there are quite a lot of students that come under the NCOP cohort at the John Bentley School. So there's lots of opportunity to use Careerpilot with them to help them think about their future careers and their aspirations going forward. We've used the Careerpilot in a number of ways. So I have one-to-ones with my NCOP students, and those one-to-ones follow on from a Careerpilot one-to-one that they've already had with Louise or Debbie. And in that meeting, they will have gone through, the next steps and the career tools section. So the bits that Debbie's just described, the pre-16 skills, looking at the job sectors, recording some providers that they like, and they will have written the report in Careerpilot, which is fantastic because then when I come to meet with them, and because there's quite a lot of students, it might be the first time I've properly met with them on a one-to-one basis. That report, I'm able to log in and launch it and understand straight away what it is they've already had a conversation with Careerpilot about. So we don't have to go over old ground in complete detail again. So it just gives us a good opportunity to get to know each other, to go through the report together, see if anything has changed, and then to build on the actions that Debbie or Louise or whoever from Careerpilot saw them. Those actions are something then that I can help them with, or we can tick them off if they've done it and they know, perhaps one of their actions was to go to an open day and find out more about a certain course. So I can then lead on from there and see how they got on, or suggest other places if it wasn't what they wanted necessarily to do in the end. The school has also used Careerpilot in terms of teacher training. So we've had a session where all the teachers came and Careerpilot came along and did an interactive workshop for an hour with them where they could use the different functions in Careerpilot, have a look at the reporting that Debbie just went through. And then when we've had PSHE days, we've put Careerpilot into that PSHED day schedule, where then the teachers have been able to use some of the functionality of Careerpilot with the students. So either doing more in the career tools with them or using the link. So for example, there's some quizzes on there and there's more information about, from the quizzes about the students' personalities and what routes they might therefore like to take that will satisfy their personalities. There's also a money matters section that they've used with the students to help the students understand the financing. And there's a whole volunteering section as well that they can then link to other websites to know what volunteering opportunities there are, so that they can fill in any skills gaps that they have. So when they go to apply to UCAS, they can then write some really good examples of work experience that they've had. So in the school, we're using it a lot, and we're trying to roll it out more and more for the students to use in their tutor time in the morning, if there's some time there for career development. Um, I hope that's enough for you on how the school have been using it. Number two, the question was, what has been the impact of using Careerpilot within your school? It's made it very, the idea of the school talking about careers and working with pupils. It's made it a good focus. So a lot of the websites out there that students are using or should be using are directed and signposted from Careerpilot. So it's a useful way for myself, and also another a career advisor that works at the school once a week, for her to make sure that we're advising students to well recognized websites that are, like Debbie said, checked half yearly to make sure that they're still saying the correct information. So by going through Careerpilot, you can be assured that you're going onto a website that is valuable for a student. And it's quite a good way if someone, for example, the volunteering, if a student wants to use volunteering, if you recommend the volunteering page, then it leaves them to independently go away and look at those different volunteering options as well, without necessarily taking up more time in a meeting. So the school has been quite enthusiastic about Careerpilot, and it's definitely been used a lot since we rolled it out here in September, October time. Again, on the PSHE days, we it enables the teachers to have something to bring in. So Careerpilot came in and did a carousel of whole class lessons with Year 9, and all the students, got a chance to have a really good go during the day. And that was a big impact because then they all went home and could talk to their parents about it. Um, we we also had after school sessions with parents, and described how Careerpilot and what their children would be doing with it. Um, and um, in that, there's a parent advisor zone. So there's lots and lots of questions that the John Bentley parents had about higher education, which we were able to answer, but also they could go away and look at the questions, the frequently asked questions on the Careerpilot website to help them support their child. That kind of fits into number three, which was describe any feedback from staff, parents, and students. So parents have said they found that useful. Staff have said that they've found the information on there useful. There's also presentations on there that if they had time to print out worksheets, they can also give to their class. And there's a section called section. See my note on it now. Start here, it's called, on the homepage. So some tutors have said that's been really valuable for a shorter period of time that they've got with students. On the homepage, it says start here, and it literally takes you through the activities you could do if you're a year 10 student, or take you through activities you could do if you're a year 11 student. And the tutors like that because they don't have to print anything off. It's all online, and you go through doing that. And that's where the quizzes are as well. So that's been really useful. A couple of my students actually have given some feedback that's on the videos that are held on the website on Careerpilot, feeding back on how they love the job sectors section. They spend a lot of time looking at the job sectors section with myself and then in their classes, looking at all the different jobs and the different roles they could do. It makes it very, very clear what they need to do for A levels, what they need to do for university to be able to get into the career that they would like to do. So that job profile section is definitely a popular part of the website with my students. Um, Number four, how do you use it in your role as a higher education advisor? When I'm working, I'm on there every day, particularly with the one-to-ones, because as Debbie recommended, when I have my one-to-one, I will then update the report with everything we discussed and update the new actions. I will then email the report to the student, as well as obviously sending the link because they have their own personal login for Careerpilot. And then I will also email that report to their tutor, so their tutor is very up to date on what they're thinking of for their future. I have some groups set up so I can look at the reports of the job sectors that my students are interested in. We had a careers fair recently, so I was able to look at that and try to get some companies in that tallied with the areas that my students are interested in. We've also had a big interview day here, and likewise, it's really useful then to see if you're getting in the employers that actually these students want to go and work for in the future. Gives you an idea through the reports on Careerpilot what the students are all generally thinking of, which ones are popular, which ones aren't so popular. So that's been very, very useful. Same with, I've mentioned it already, like the volunteering links, the money matter links. They're all really handy when I'm in a meeting with a student. You find it yourself, there's so many different questions that they can ask to do with careers. So it's great to have that one resource that you know will signpost you off to the right places. So it's very, very useful in that respect. So I think that's my answers to most of the questions. Do you have any questions or anything that perhaps I've missed that you wondered how we used it in school? No, that's great. Thank you. I believe you've discussed some of these strategies with Andrew, HE Advisor already. Yes, absolutely. Met with Andrew. And again, any information that he'd like from here, or if he wants to come for another day here, then he's more than welcome.
Okay, so Catherine, thank you very much for your input, and stick around till the end. And we were supposed to be having Nikki from Hastefield talking to us about how they're using it in their school, but she unfortunately hasn't been able to get here today. There is a bit more feedback in terms of different people and how they're using it in their schools, and that can be found in the advisor zone, and there's a particular section on there called feedback. And a lot of this we did when we were submitting for an award from the CDI, and we won that last week or the week before, so that was really nice. So it's really valuable feedback from schools, particularly in the local area, but further afield there are lots and lots of schools in Devon and Cornwall in particular that have been using Careerpilot for a long, long time. And in terms of student registrations, that is a really strong area for us. So Devon, Cornwall, and then more recently Bath, Wiltshire and Bristol. So lots and lots of really positive stories on how schools are using it in their area. So that's in the advisor zone if you wanted just to go and have a little look to see what other schools are saying and what they're doing. So really it's just about using it as you want to. Lots and lots of schools tend to use it in their tutor time periods or in their drop down days, such as PSHE times. Again, from one-to-ones, that's a really useful place to start recording those conversations. Using HE Skills Map, particularly if you're in your post-16 classes, trying just maybe as a start to start going through the whole sort of UCAS application process in year 12, or possibly even in year 11 if you want to start them early. Kath mentioned the videos, so just finding particular videos that might spark an interest, whether it's a video on a particular job that can be found in the job sectors, or whether it's a particular route, i.e. apprenticeships or HE. And there are stories on there about people going to university, or perhaps from poorer families, or perhaps they're from families with disabilities or carers, or whatever it might be. We're hoping that there's enough videos there to cover most sort of student stories. So have a little look at those. There are resources, as Kath mentioned, there is an electronic Start Here guide that can be used to simply talk students through electronically what they need to do on Careerpilot. But as well as that, there are worksheets that can be downloaded and printed off within the advisor zone. And they're either tutor time sort of length, so 15 minutes, or they're an hour kind of length. And the only kind of problem there might be is if you've not got a computer room as a tutor base, whatever that might be. But they're there and they can be used. And there are ones that don't need the student to be sat near a computer, just to try and get around that problem. Yeah, parents' evenings, promote the parent zone, and we have got leaflets that you can give out if you want some. Andrew can grab some of those. And this is just to show you where on the website a really quick sort of 15-minute, half an hour session is a really nice thing to start tutors with. It doesn't require any preparation. They can simply, as long as they're in a computer room with a set of students, they can simply click on the age group that they're working with and get the students to go through the different stages of the career tools. And then it's also linked to the I Could Buzz quiz. So you may or may not have come across that, but it's a little quiz on I Could that students can fill out, and staff. And it shows you what personality type you are and what jobs those personality types often go into. And it's quite accurate, because when I go out to do teacher training sessions, a lot of the teachers end up having a go, because it only takes 5 minutes. And a lot of them end up being told that they're suited to teaching. So that's quite funny. And then they start going looking for other jobs. But yeah, we get around that one. So Advisor Zone, again, just to remind you, you've probably seen this, but just to remind you where to find those resources so you can suggest them to teachers. They are on the Advisor Zone. And if you are presenting Careerpilot as a kind of a new thing, there are ready-made presentations there. And likewise, if you're introducing it to parents or teachers, they're all on the Advisor Zone there, as well as newsletter articles. So if you just wanted to put a little thing into a newsletter about how you're using Careerpilot, they're all on there. And as you've got Andrew, probably this would go through him. But if you do want any extra materials or anything, or staff training, then to organise that through him. So just to make you aware that the Parent Zone is also there. And again, it's age related. So depending on which parents you're introducing the site to, you can show them that there. So we've mapped Careerpilot to the statutory guidance that's just been out since January. So we've done that there and shown how Careerpilot meets some of those requirements. And we've also mapped it to the 8 Gatsby, to the Gatsby benchmarks. So again, if you are using Careerpilot in school, at least you can look back on that and say, well, actually, we're covering some of these individual requirements. And I can get you copies of those if you need those as well. And just a reminder, any school who has over 100 users or registered users gets promoted to super user, and we tweet and we do lots of promotion, and you get your name on the website. And oh, you got those, great. And